Is your X5 due for brakes? Well, my name is Cole from FCP Euro, and today I'm going to show you how to install new pads and rotors in the rear on your G05 X5. All right, let's talk about brakes. In front of us, we have our old rear brakes that came off of X5 behind us, and we have our new Zimmermann brake kit. Now, Zimmermann brake kit comes with Zimmermann rotors, ATE brake pads, a brake pad wear sensor, all new hardware for the brakes itself, and some brake pad assembly grease. Now, the rotor here on the left, we do see a little bit of wear on it. There's a little bit of lip here. The pads definitely have some life left in them, but they have been worn, and the hardware is one-time use, and the same with the clips for the brake pads. So how do we know when we have to replace our brakes? Well, some symptoms can include a warning light on the dash, a brake vibration, poor pedal feel, overall poor braking performance, and a visual look of the pads being low and the rotor having a pretty heavy lip. Now, as far as service interval goes, BMW does not have a specific service interval for the rear brakes, and it's really dependent on how you drive your vehicle. However, here at FCP Euro, we've seen these vehicles needing to have rear brakes done around 50 to 70,000 miles. For the G05 X5, we offer a multitude of rear brake options, including genuine, OE, OEM, and aftermarket, and all of these brakes are under our lifetime guarantee. We chose the Zimmermann brake kit for our X5 behind us because it provides OE performance and quality, all the hardware we're going to need while still being budget oriented. With all that covered, let's get into the tools we're going to need for this DIY. We will need an assortment of sockets including a 17mm, 13mm, E16, and 6mm Allen. We're going to need a ratchet that will work with our sockets, an assortment of torque wrenches that can range anywhere from 16 Newton meters all the way up to 140 Newton meters, a flathead screwdriver, a thin 17mm open-end wrench, a wheel hanger, a rear parking brake piston tool, and the appropriate wrench to counterhold it. In this case, it is going to be a 22mm wrench, a wire brush, or optionally a hub cleaning tool, a pair of safety glasses, some brake clean and glass cleaner, a caliper hanger, a device to suck out brake fluid if your fluid reservoir level is high, a scan tool that can perform the rear brake pad replacement procedure, and some optional tools include power tools to make the job a little bit easier, and some cotton swab applicators to apply some brake grease. With that said, let's get into this DIY. Before we get underneath the vehicle and start replacing the rear brakes, we have a couple things that we need to do inside the cabin. The first thing we're going to have to do is disable the parking brake. To do that, we're going to cycle the ignition button 3 times to enter diagnostic mode, and then with our foot on the brake, we're going to press down on the parking brake switch. Now, if your vehicle is equipped with air suspension like ours, we're going to have to deactivate the air suspension before we lift the car. We're going to turn on the ignition again by pressing the start-stop button 3 times, hold the switch down for 7 seconds, and then release. Once we release the button, you'll see there's a level control not available change message on the dash, and that indicates that we successfully deactivated the air suspension. Inside the car, we're going to have to use a scan tool that can activate the brake pad replacement procedure for the rear brakes. To do that, we're going to navigate to our vehicle that we're working on. I'm using an Autel MX808 that can perform this function. There's other scan tools out there that can do this. This is just one example. Then we'll go to Hot Functions, go to Electric Parking Brake, then click Activate/Deactivate Workshop Mode, and then we're going to activate Workshop Mode. Now that Workshop Mode is activated, we can cycle the ignition off. Now to remove this wheel, we're going to be using an electric impact. If you do not have one of these, you're going to want to break the wheel bolts free down on the ground. With a 17mm socket, we're going to remove all these 5 lug bolts. One thing that's not required but is very handy is a wheel hanger, and this just makes it so when we remove the wheel, it does not fly all over the place and slides on and off nicely. With the wheel off, we'll now take a flathead screwdriver, insert it right between the brake pad and the caliper, and slightly pry towards the front of the vehicle. This will give us a little bit of room so we can now remove the caliper. With a 13mm socket and ratchet and a 17mm slim wrench, we're going to come in here, break these free, and then remove the bolts. We can now slide this off, take a brake hook, and pull it out of the way. At this point, we're going to get a flathead screwdriver and get underneath our brake pads to remove them and dispose of them. We're just going to pry them out against the rotor and pull them out just like that. With the caliper bracket still attached to the vehicle, it's easier to get a flathead screwdriver and remove these two clips because we're going to be replacing these later. With an E16 socket and a large 3/8 ratchet, we're going to remove these two bolts that hold on the caliper bracket. With the caliper bracket now removed, it's much easier to clean it off the vehicle. So we're going to grab some brake clean and some brushes to give this caliper bracket a good scrub. Now when cleaning this bracket, we're going to want to make sure to get the wire brush all in the grooves where the pads are going to sit, because we want the best possible mating surface for where that pad clip is going to sit. We can remove these slide pins by gently pulling on the boot. And we're going to want to just inspect for any tears or cracks in this rotor boot. They look great. So now we're just going to apply a little bit of coat of grease on this slide pin and then reinstall them into the caliper bracket. Sometimes these slide pins can become seized, and if that does happen, just use a pair of pliers or vice grips to try to pull it out while rotating it, and then we can clean it up and re-grease it. This step is very important because if these pins do not slide freely, we can have inconsistent brake pad wear. And continue to clean the caliper on the inside. Now take your rear parking brake piston tool. We're going to position it right on the piston here and then thread this portion outwards with our 22mm wrench, and this will vary on what kind of tool you have. We're just going to counter hold this, screw it in. Now that the piston is all the way screwed in, we're going to want to make sure that the boot is sitting nicely around it and it's not pinched anywhere. We're going to clean it a little bit with brake clean, just make sure the surface is clean, and then come back with some grease and lightly coat the face of this piston. With a 6mm Allen on our impact here, we're going to just remove this rotor screw and pull the rotor off. Now, if your rotor does not slide off easily like it did on this vehicle, you may want to have a soft blow hammer to hit it so it can break it free. Now with that rotor screw gone, we're just going to pull the rotor off and set it to the side. We're going to remove our wheel hanger here and start cleaning this hub. Now you can use a wire brush to get all of the deposits, rust and corrosion off the face of the hub, or you can use some power tools. Now this is a wheel hub face resurfacing tool that you can find at fcpeuro.com, and it attaches to our drill here, and the purpose of this is to be able to grind the surface of this hub very clean and very quick. So we're just going to use this tool here because we have it and make this job a little quicker. We will take our new rotor now and slide it onto the hub and install the new provided set screw for the rotor in the kit. Taking a 6mm Allen socket, we can thread this new set screw in and then torque it to 16 Newton meters. If you do happen to buy a kit with directional rotors, be sure to install the correct rotor on the correct side. Give the rotor a couple taps before you fully torque it down to make sure that it's seated all the way. To torque this correctly, we're going to want to use a flathead screwdriver and counter hold the rotor through the rotor vanes. Now take your clean caliper bracket, reinstall it on top of the rotor, and then thread the new hardware into the bracket. With an E16 socket, we're just going to tighten these fasteners snugly and then come back and torque them to spec. With our torque wrench set to 130 Newton meters, we're going to come back with our E16 socket and do the final tightening on these two fasteners. Now with the new clips provided in the kit, we're going to install them onto the caliper bracket. With our new pads, we're going to take a little bit of this grease and just coat the surface of the pad. We want to make sure that this is not the side that faces the rotor, and this is the side that's going to be facing the caliper. Now we'll take some of that grease and rub it in the areas that I'm doing right now. We don't want to use too much of this, just a light coating. Now repeat that process on the other pad. Now the pad without the notch bump right here, we're going to slide it into the caliper bracket just like this. We're gonna have to wiggle it in a little bit and then fully press down. Now with the brake pad that has this little bump on the backing plate, we're going to install this on the back side. At this time, we can take the caliper and reinstall it back on the vehicle. You may have to push the slide pins in a little bit to get the seat all the way. Now with the new bolts included in the kit, we're gonna install these and then tighten them down to 35 Newton meters. And we're gonna repeat all the same procedures as shown here, with an exception of replacing the brake pad wear sensor. So we're gonna show you how to do that now. As you can see, we're on the passenger side now, and we've already replaced the pads and rotors on this side. However, this is gonna be the side where it has a brake pad wear sensor in the pad. So we're gonna show you how to replace that. Taking a flathead screwdriver, we're gonna get right underneath of this sensor and pry it out. With the wire now removed from the brake pad, we can remove the wire from all of the grommets. And you just need to pull it a little bit. There's gonna be 4 of these grommets that you have to pull out from their holder. Once that is all out, we can come over here and release the clips that hold this cover on for this terminal box. The clip in the back can be a little bit tricky, so a flathead screwdriver can assist you here. Slide this down, disconnect the electrical connector, and now we can install our new sensor. We're gonna clip in our new sensor here into the wiring connector, listen for that click, and then give it a good tug back and forth to make sure it's not gonna come out. Now we're gonna reinstall this into this little box here, make sure it sits nicely in there, and then close the lid. A little bit of glass cleaner definitely makes it easier to push this wiring sensor into its grommets. So we're just gonna spray down all the rubber pieces now to make it slide in nicely. Taking the end of the sensor with the raised edge facing towards the outside of the vehicle, we can now reinstall it into the pad. A flathead screwdriver is definitely handy with pushing this in. Just be sure not to break the wire. With our torque wrench set to 140 Newton meters, we're gonna tighten all of the wheel bolts on both sides in a crisscross pattern. Now let's head back inside the vehicle and deactivate the rear brake replacement workshop mode. We're gonna turn on ignition again by pressing the start stop button 3 times and then follow the prompts on the scan tool. You're gonna hear some audible noises from the rear parking brake motors, and that's just it carrying out its service plan. We're gonna wanna engage the parking brake and then release it. Now we're gonna hit continue, and workshop mode is now deactivated. If your vehicle is equipped with air suspension, now is the time to reactivate it. To do this, we will hold the air suspension switch downwards for 7 seconds and then release. The last thing we're gonna have to do within the cluster is reset the brake pad warning light. To reset that, we're gonna hold down the BC button until we see a service menu pop up. All right. Now, this vehicle does not have the reset possibility for the rear brake pads. We're just cycling through here, and the reason it doesn't have that is because the brake pads were not due for replacement. But if you do see it on here, to reset it, we're gonna just hold that BC button again. And if you do not see that function within your screen here, we can go into the scan tool and reset the condition-based service. To do that, we're going to hit the maintenance tab on a specific scan tool, select CBS Vehicle Data Correction. Now within this maintenance menu, we're gonna click CBS Reset UDS. We're gonna scroll over to rear brakes and then click reset. We're gonna continue and we're gonna say reset anyway. Now we can see under rear brakes, our service counter is at now 2, and that means that we successfully reset the condition-based service light on our vehicle. Now that that's reset, we can cycle off the ignition and you can bed in your brakes according to the manufacturer specifications. Now, the bed-in procedure is very important because it's gonna make sure that the brake pads and rotors match nicely and have the best possible braking performance that they can have. If you like this video, please be sure to hit that like button. And if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments section below. And if you like this DIY video and you want to see many more of them, well, you're in luck because we have a lot more coming. So be sure to hit that subscribe button to keep up to date. My name's Cole from FCP Euro. Thanks for watching and keep on wrenching.